Hey guys, Nick from Long Island Wargaming, and bringing you a battle report. Originally I was not going to report this game because it was kind of a wash. Now, just to tell you right off the bat, my opponent is not my regular Orc player opponent, Chris. It is a friend of mine named John, and he actually hasn't really played a game since 7th edition, so he made like a 7th edition styled list. He wasn't ready to play 8th edition, and you'll see what he brought. But essentially, I wasn't going to cast this game because it was just kind of a silly little fun game. But after a lengthy conversation with Land of Mert, we decided it would be a cool idea to maybe do some videos on how to beat Skaven, or just some videos on how to beat certain armies instead of how to play that army really well. So in this video, I'll kind of go into both armies, but really, I guess the general topic is going to be why matchups are important, and I think I'm not quite sure where this video is going to go yet, so hopefully I can get some feedback from you guys on what you think of the topics, but let's just see how it goes. So here's my list. It's a 1,000-point list. We have some slaves to the left, some clan rats in the back, and then I have a Hell Pit Abomination, a Lord on Bonebreaker, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Rat Ogres, one of them being the Masterbred. So it was kind of a cheesy list to play against an opponent who hasn't played in a while, bringing so many Rat Ogres. But John has a bunch of Black Orcs, which is 14 or 15, and then he's got a War Boss, or an Orc Big Boss. He's got a bunch of Night Goblins with what we'll later find out is Fanatics, and he also has a Goblin BSB in there. He's got some Trolls back there, and then he's got a Shaman, who I think he gets Itchy, Nuisance, and I think Gift of the Spider God. I think that's the name of the spells. Then we got some R Boys, and then a Doom Diver up there on the hill. Now, this is my deployment. I've got essentially the Lord deploys in the Rat Ogres, and then everything else as you see it. And then you could see now John's deployment. So essentially this game was looking pretty good for me just based on my deployment. Now, also to let you know, I believe one of his characters had the Ruby Ring of Ruin, which is the flaming attack, the flaming fireball spell, bound spell. And John could have won this game if the matchups were correct. But as you see, the Hell Pit Abomination is lined up with the Night Goblins. The Clan Rats are just lined up, I guess, with either or in regards to either the Night Goblins or the Black Orcs. The Rat Ogres are ready to go into the Black Orcs, and then the Slaves are there to just cover the Rat Ogre flank or deal with either the Trolls or the Archers. Now, let's talk a little bit about each one. So, the Slaves with the Archers, not a big deal. If I get a couple get shot down on the way over there or get countershot, who cares? There's a million of them. Or if they get stuck in combat with the Trolls, that's fine. There's a million of them. As long as the Lord's alive, he'll have leadership. The Slaves will have leadership 10, which is great. Now, the Rat Ogres lined up with the Black Orcs and or the Trolls, they're just high initiative, and they're going to crush either one of them. Now, the Hell Pit Abomination is, I guess, this could be considered a good matchup, the Night Goblins, since there's a lot of them. A lot of them are going to die, but they'll be stubborn, so it's not as bad losing as many guys, but it really depends on how you look at it. Now, we usually play closed lists, and I totally even forgot the option of Fanatics coming out. So, the Fanatics are going to go on to the Hell Pit Abomination when the time comes. And you can see that now, actually. The Fanatics come out. 2 of them hit the Hell Pit Abomination. And actually, no, I'm sorry. None of them hit the Hell Pit Abomination, which was actually a good thing for John, because now I'm going to touch, the Hell Pit's going to touch them, and essentially, if I get all the way through, which I end up doing, I end up suffering 6d6 strength 5 hits, I believe a Fanatic is, and he rolled really, really good, to the point where I think I took like 20 hits, maybe 22, 23 hits, like a lot of hits against the Hell Pit Abomination. He ends up taking 4 wounds, which is good for John, but it's still alive. Now, that means I ended up regenning a lot of wounds. I don't know, I think I regened like maybe 10 wounds, something really ridiculous. Now, talking about matchups and how to beat Skaven, or how to use your orc units in a good matchup against Skaven, the Night Goblins should have been against those Rat Ogres. If the Rat Ogre unit would have had to take 6d6 Strength 5 hits, it would have been easier to wound, and there would have been no armor saves or no regen saves. It would have been a mess. An absolute mess. I'm going to say at least 5 guys would have dropped, maybe 6. I mean, if John had rolled super high with his Fanatic movement, yeah, they would have came out the other side and done less damage, and then probably never saw anything for the rest of the game. But when they fall short, and you have to move through them, especially with the compulsory move like the Hell Pit Abomination, but if you're charging, I mean, you still have to complete the charge, if I am remembering correctly. And it just would have been a better matchup. He would have killed a whole crap load of Rat Ogres, but instead, the Hell Pit Abomination was in the right place in the right time. He absorbed, 15 hits. He took 4, so he was still alive, which was awesome. But getting regen or ward saves up against those high strength hits, no armor save hits, is the way to go. Now, yeah, let's move on. And as you can see, this was a really laid-back game. I was actually playing Magic the Gathering while playing this Warhammer game, so I was kind of doing a little bit of both. So a couple guys got shot out, not a big deal. And then, eventually, it looks like John charges me here with both the trolls and the black orcs. Now, he's got only 15 black orcs because, you know what, in a 7th edition styled game, I feel like you could get away with it. Only the front ranks attacking, there's no always strike back, there's no support attacks. So he just made a list that has been successful in the past, but obviously now in 8th edition isn't as effective. And I believe he went for poison. He casted poison. Now, another mistake that he may have made is he casted poison onto the Black Orcs in hopes to just hopefully survive and win the game. I think the poison should have gone onto the Night Goblins. The Night Goblin used it because that would be a good way to hit and wound that high toughness monster. As you can see in this video, this image, essentially all the Black Orcs except the hero just die. And the trolls are there because, you know, they have got their regen saves. I lose a couple Rat Ogres. And then I just run them down. The hero gets away. The trolls die. And then, I guess in my next movement phase, I charge, and then the Rat Ogres go ahead and move to, I guess, get ready to flank charge the Night Goblins. Now, just to breeze through these images a little bit, I do some massive amounts of damage. I guess this is actually the last image. So it was a fun little game just to get John up to speed with some of the 8th edition rules, but you can see that I won the game based on my matchups, and T lost the game based on his matchups. The archers, I don't even know how to comment on, and I should also go back to Doom Diver actually misfired on its first shot, even though it had like a direct hit on the Rat Ogres. That was unfortunate. But just the matchups would have changed the game a lot. If the Black Orcs were, I don't know, I think perhaps taking 2 units of trolls instead of 1 unit of trolls of 2, and just using the trolls to redirect the frenzied Rat Ogres would have been the way to go. So that would have been a way of using this list to work, and then that 15 unit of Black Orcs flanking the frenzied Red Ogres would have been great. The Red Ogres would have also, the Black Orcs would have also have done great against the Clan Rats. There's only 30 of them. I know 30 sounds like a lot, but if he's doing 2 hand weapons, he's got 10 attacks in the front, 5 more from support attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s. He would have crunched them pretty hard. The Black Orcs should not have been in combat with the slaves. It just would have been, a couple turns too long of him having to sit there and grind down these slaves. The Ruby Ring of Ruin was a bust, but that should have been used every turn to try to do some damage to the Helped Abomination, instead of casting any of the other Orcs and Goblins magic. And then the Rat Ogres should have been up against the Night Goblins just because of the Fanatics. The Fanatics would have destroyed them. Like you could see in, I believe, maybe my 3rd or 4th battle report, I send like 12 Rat Ogres into Night Goblin Fanatics and they just get destroyed. And they eventually end up running because there's just not enough there to fight. I mean, maybe the archers should have been up on the hill, giving him less surface area for me to work with in regards to where my units are going. But I also think the archers, although not as effective as they could be, should have been shooting at the Rat Ogres. Why? No armor. So over 2 turns, you could have easily killed a Rat Ogre, or maybe 2, who knows, do a couple wounds. I mean, I know Ballistic Skill 3 with regular bows isn't that great, but it just would have been the way to go. Or perhaps using the archers to redirect the Rat Ogres to get some counter shots, but also just get the Rat Ogres in an inconvenient spot. So this was kind of just in John's way of setting up his guys on the field, was just 2 battle lines meeting where if he picked his matchups more correctly and was a little bit more strategic with where everything was and who redirected who, the trolls and the archers should have been dealing with the Rat Ogres to help redirect them or get some shots off at them, and then have the Black Orcs do their thing later or mid-game. I had a very offensive army. I had no shooting. I had no magic. So he had the opportunity to control where this game was going. So maybe he should not have deployed so far up. I mean, there's nothing he could have done about the Doom Diver sucking. But, I mean, what are you going to do? So, just to recap again, your matchups are important. So what are you going to do? You're going to get some dead drops. You're going to get some fast cavalry. You're going to get some whatever just takes up space. I know in a 1,000-point game that's not a lot. Maybe 2 trolls instead of 1 unit of 2. But you just need to know where your opponent's going to be. So to beat Skaven, you got to get the right matchups, because if you don't get the right matchups, you end up fighting multiple rounds of combat trying to grind them down so you can eventually break them. That unit of 50 slaves, yeah, it's real easy to kill them, but you have to kill a lot of them to even get to the point where they're not taking stubborn tests, steadfast tests at Leadership 10. You would have had to kill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ranks to be able to get me down to Leadership 9. It's just, tough. So I'm going to try to do some more videos like this. I know this was a really simple and not crazy game, but just to dissect a little bit about how to beat Skaven or how to beat Orcs and Goblins, just because these are the game sets I've been playing. So instead of doing some new battle reports, I might go back to some old ones, pull out some images, and just comment on how the game could have changed if either Chris or John or whoever I'm playing as Orcs and Goblins would have put A unit here and B unit there and tried this strategy differently to help beat Skaven. So I know I'm doing the All Things Skaven series where I'm showing you how to do good with Skaven or just expressing my thoughts on the units. Now I'm going to try to throw in some videos on how to kill them. This way I'm, giving some food for both sides of the Skaven battle line here. So I would really love some comments and feedback from you. Again, this was kind of an idea that Land of Mert gave me, where just discussed a little bit about, great, I'm giving information on how this army is good and what they could do, but how are they weak? How do you beat them? So thanks for watching, and I'd love to get some feedback. Thanks, guys.